So let's talk about coronavirus or the thing, dude. So this is going to be so hard because I'm so furious. I don't have a ton of money in 401k. I'm all in here, but there are going to be people that lose their jobs. And the kill rate on this, like you're a math guy, like deaths. So that's X deaths, right?
Right.
And then you have Y infected. That is your kill rate.
Yeah. Which we don't even know what the Y is, right?
They have no clue.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just kind of looks like the flu. So now South Korea is the one that has actually done a decent amount of testing. The kill rate is like 0.7%. And it's all elderly people with health complications. And so, so this is my last thing.
Let's talk about, oh, well, finish your.
I'm going to,
rant.
because I need to, because if not, it's going to get in here. And the thing is, you have the media perpetuating, everything's shutting down, flights are getting canceled, people are going to have their jobs cut. And the thing is, people will know people who lose jobs because of this. They will know people who lose jobs, but they won't know anybody that died or got super sick or could have died. And there's going to be like the tornado warnings in Oklahoma where people quit listening to the news and they're going to get mad at people because of this. Anyways, that's my rant.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is, whether you're right or you're wrong, and people could obviously debate that, but the challenge is going to be, as a property management company, as a company in the property management industry, what is going to be our response? One of the things we're talking about internally is we've got maintenance people that are going inside of people's homes, right? And when it was the flu, it wasn't a big deal to go inside of people's homes. But now that it's coronavirus, is my maintenance team going to want to go into those homes? How do we protect them? Are the people going to want them to come into the home? So we derive a huge percentage of our business from our maintenance teams out there performing work. And we've got to also, part of our job is to protect the assets of our clients. And what happens if the resident will not allow us to do that? That becomes a pretty interesting thing. Now, from a property management business, if I'm just solely a property manager, all of us may be thinking, well, they're going to have to pay the rent, they're going to have to live somewhere. But what happens when 5% of your residents lose their jobs if you're in a blue collar market? There's some real things that we all need to be thinking around to prepare for, because the last thing we want to do is be reactive to something that is that kind of systemic across all of our businesses.
So it's interesting. So if you think about the housing bust, right? The housing bust the last time was really derived by an economic downturn. A bunch of people lose their jobs. And now you have folks that can't afford their mortgage payment, and now they're defaulting on their homes. The good thing is the investor, being a property investor, is usually a hedged bet in those scenarios, right? You may lose the renters, but until the United States population in that segment has more renters to lose than homeowners to lose, it will most likely be a net positive, won't it? I mean, from the terms of investors worrying about their assets.
Yeah, I think at the macro level, it's definitely a net positive. I mean, I'm certainly glad that I'm invested in real estate versus the stock market. And I'm with you. I'm all in on GK. But I think at the micro level, if we zoom in, let's just play this out. A resident won't let us in a home. All of a sudden, there's $20,000 worth of leak damage, and obviously insurance should cover that. But what happens if insurance doesn't cover it due to neglect? Or what happens if a resident loses their job and then they can't leave because they don't have any money? And then obviously we've got to evict them, and then the person falls behind because they're living paycheck. Maybe it's a person that owns one home, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they kind of need that to cover their mortgage, or both people lose their jobs. I mean, it does have some clear challenges that at a micro level we should face as a property manager. Could face.
How are you guys handling because that's a great thing I never thought about, just getting in the home where you either have a maintenance person that's concerned about their health, Whether the threat is real or not doesn't matter. Are they going to go into that home? Is the resident concerned about somebody coming into their home based on this, whether the threat is real or not? Like, how do you guys help manage that, or how do you anticipate managing that in the event that that does become a problem?
Yeah, great question. So we're like version 1.0 on this. I think the first thing is around communication. You know, if we start to feel the pressure and where I'm located, most of the markets we're located in, there's, you know, when we're talking is, you know, early March, there's very few cases, right? So we don't feel the pressure, but we need to make these objective decisions prior to the pressure being put on us by the residents or by the maintenance team. But what we're doing is it's going to be around communication, right? I think part of what everybody says is, as long as you're far enough away from somebody, just kind of like the flu, this is not something that you're going to catch if one person stays in another room and you're working in another room. So communicating to the residents proactively about, you know, giving space to the maintenance team member. The other thing we're looking at is potentially masks that are actually certified to, you know, to clean these out. I think it's very obvious that the masks that that most people are wearing it's well documented that they're not going to keep somebody from getting the virus. Yep. The other thing is wearing rubber gloves while they're in there, and then obviously hand sanitizer. Once they get done with the job, making sure that they're washing their hands. So I think there's obviously some proactive ways we can do that. I mean, the last thing we would want to do, while I don't think it's an immediate threat to the resident or to our maintenance tech, you did say it could be a threat to somebody with some health issues. And when you manage and scale, or you manage, let's say you manage 300 homes, some of those residents you do have health issues and could be overly infected or overly affected by an infection. And so I think you've got to be aware of that and be empathetic to that.
You know, I think that's, so number one, I really appreciate how you said version 1.0, because I think it just means that we've got the first one, we'll see how it works. Yeah, well, you're talking to a tech guy, but one of our core values is being agile. And anyways, it's just always knowing that we can improve it. So I think it's great. But I think that's great, you know, in the communication, if you establish that and the credibility behind it, and then you demonstrate how you're addressing it, I think it builds like a lot of confidence with your renters that you're already thinking of it, you're ahead of it, you've done the research, you're equipping your folks with the appropriate PPE, and when they show up, they're going to look like they're pros, and they're taking every precaution to just make sure not to transfer. Like I think that's probably about as good as you could get at this point with the information that we have now, right? That's really great.
I agree.
Well, time will tell on this. I have my thoughts on what's going to happen, but I think in no matter case, it's still a great time to be an investor, real estate investor. You know, it's not a good time to be have a heavy dose of your stocks in the travel industry, but it's still a great time to be an investor. And I'm glad that people like you are thinking about how to handle this, because regardless, definitely it's a nonstop talk right now. And so how do you make sure that your folks, both internally in your team and then those that you service, know that you're taking it seriously? It's super important. So awesome, Matt. I always like talking to you about some of these things. We're gonna see what the outcome is in about 3 months. We'll know by then. But anyways, it's always great chatting with you.
Yeah, I hope the summer kills all of it, just similar to the flu. And this is a non-factor 3 months from now.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. All right, well, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, man. Always great talking with you.
See you, Ray. Enjoyed it.